today I'm going to share a story about a time I trusted my gut feeling. I got thrown under the bus anyway and ended up crying in my car. I had to rely on a business partner from another department to provide me with the detailed data. When I received the numbers, my gut feeling immediately told me something was wrong. So I pushed back, I asked more questions, but I even got an formal email from him stating that everything was verified and accurate. We were in a department meeting, and instead of looking at the facts, my direct boss completely humiliated me in front of everyone, in front of my team, in front of my colleagues. And I remember sitting in that chair, and I was a manager myself, just taking it in. And I just honestly wanted to slam that freaking door and leave the room because I was trying so hard not to cry at work. If you have ever felt the same unfairness, I want you to know you're not crazy and you're not overreacting, and you are not alone. Welcome back to You're Not Alone podcast. This is your host, Victoria Vita. And today we're kicking off a very special series. And for the next few episodes, I'm going to pull back the curtain on my past life as CPA with 20 years of corporate experience. And we're going to talk about the hidden emotional toll of the accounting profession. So hold on one second. If you're not an accountant, do not skip this episode. The story I'm about to tell you is about trusting your gut, getting thrown under the bus by a coworker or your own boss, and ending up crying in your own car. And no matter what industry you're in, I can guarantee you will relate to this. So, and if you're listening to this on your commute, or maybe you're sitting at your desk looking at those spreadsheets right now, I want you to stop for just 1 second. I know as a mindset mentor that just thinking about a stressful work situation can make your heart rate spike. So, before I tell you this story, we're going to do a quick nervous system reset together. So, what I want you to do, I want you to drop your shoulders away from your ears, unclench your jaw. There is a lot of information stored here, and take a deep breath in with me. Hold it for a second and let it out. Let's take a deep breath in together and hold it for a second and just slowly exhale it out. And now let's talk about that specific gut feeling. I'm sure you know exactly what I mean. It is that intuition you get when you look at the set of data, and even if you don't have a proof yet, your gut is screaming that something is wrong with it. So, and today I'm going to share a story about a time I trusted my gut feeling. I got thrown under the bus anyway and ended up crying in my car. And I'm not a crier. And if you have ever felt that the same unfairness, I want you to know you're not crazy and you're not overreacting, and you are not alone. So I'm going to tell a story from my personal experience as an accountant. And as accountants, we are at the very end of corporate data chain. We don't create the raw data per se. We receive it after everything has already happened. So we usually act as detectives trying to figure out what caused the numbers to look the way they do. So, years ago, when I was working at a large corporation, I had to rely on a business partner from another department to provide me with the detailed data. When I received the numbers, my gut feeling like, ooh, immediately told me something was wrong. So I pushed back, I asked more questions, but this business partner really refused to collaborate and kept telling me that the information was correct. And I even got an formal email from him stating that everything was verified and accurate. Because I wasn't on the front line, I didn't have access to the raw data because it was confidential. I did what all accountants do. I did every single step I could prove that my gut feeling was right or wrong. But without that specific access, I had to accept their confirmation as a true statement. And a few months went by, we still had few more conversations. And suddenly, of course, you know that those numbers were flagged. So we were in a department meeting and there were other people around the table, including my team. And instead of looking at the facts, what really happened, my direct boss completely humiliated me in front of everyone, in front of my team, in front of my colleagues. So she was pouring dirt all over me. And I actually felt like I was an absolute failure because I didn't have information that I was supposedly supposed to know and have, even though I had no access to it or had no power to request that information. So she blamed me for a business partner's mistake. I remember sitting in that chair and I was a manager myself, just taking it in. And I just honestly wanted to slam that freaking door and leave the room because I was trying so hard not to cry at work. And thankfully, another VP in the room actually stood up for me. He pointed out that every step I took and my team took was correct. We received confirmation from the business partner, and I didn't have the resources to look deeper into the confidential data. He actually took responsibility for the situation without just blindly blaming the team. I remember I learned a lot from him that day about actually what real leadership looks like. So, but the damage from my boss was already done. So, the second that meeting ended, I walked straight to my car and I cried. Yes, that was my first and last time when I cried over work. I was so frustrated and I was so overwhelmed. It felt so incredibly unfair because I knew I had done everything right. I knew my team had scrambled to prove the numbers were wrong. But because of the procedures and policies and the boss who wanted a scapegoat, I was the one sitting in my car in tears. So, but let's see what really happened there when I was crying in my car and feeling completely defeated. So, by looking back now with my mentoring experience and my healing experience, I realized that that situation wasn't actually about the wrong data. It was a masterclass in human psychology and unhealed insecurities. So I want to break it down exactly what was happening behind the scene because I can guarantee you have these exact same characters in your office right now. So let's see what actually happened to me and why did I personally stay silent. So I didn't push back when I was thrown under the bus because I was operating purely out of fear. So even though I had been in corporate America for over a decade by that time, I still carried the deep insecurity of English being my second language. Yes, that's one of the things that haunted me for a while. And I was so terrified of acting inappropriately in the corporate environment. And that act led to my ultimate fear, that was losing my job. So my silence wasn't really me keeping the peace. It was my insecurity paralyzing me. So let's look at my supervisor and why did she blame the team? So when a manager brings their team down in front of others, it looks like a power move. But if we dive deeper, it is actually a massive display of insecurity. So she was so terrified of taking responsibility for the error. So she decided, instead of looking at the root problem, she will use her authority to crush people below her so she wouldn't look bad to the executives above her. And that isn't really a power, that is panic. So, and now let's take a look at the VP who actually helped and why did he step in to help. So he was the only one operating with true confidence. When you are truly confident, you are not afraid to look an ugly problem right in the face, right? True power is taking responsibility for the team's actions and focusing entirely on finding a solution rather than finding a scapegoat. It was the most important lesson for all of us, this system fix. So eventually, the person who gave me the wrong data was fired. So my gut feeling was right the entire time. But firing one person doesn't fix a broken system. We had over 150 people in our accounting department, and every single one of us relied on business partners to give us accurate information. So we realized as a team that the issue I faced wasn't just my problem. This was an organizational threat. So we had to completely rebuild how we verify data across the entire company. So no other accountant had to end up crying in their car over a preventable error. So what really happens when we really work with our own insecurities, we stop reacting to the drama and we start solving the actual problems. So, and if you're dealing with an insecure boss right now or a colleague, we have those as well, or if your own fears are keeping you silent in meetings, you don't have to figure this out alone, even though it may feel isolated, because when you experience this kind of unfairness, where do you go? You can really express your true feelings in front of everybody at the office because you don't want to look weak. You don't want to end up in HR or even get fired. You cannot really explain it to your partner at home because if they're not in the same field, they don't really understand the complex pain of being an accountant. And if you just bury it, but your body eventually will start absorbing that stress and it will turn into physical symptoms like back pain, stomachache, headaches, exhaustions, and a sleepless night. So we need a place to let our feelings just be so we don't turn into machines. So this is exactly why I built Behind the Ledger community. It is completely anonymous, HR-free space where you can drop your title, regulate your nervous system, and get advice or support how to handle these exact toxic corporate dynamics without being fired. So there is a room you can go to after you have been humiliated in a meeting or when a business partner lies to you about their data. Inside the community, we have a space called the vent vault. So it is an HR free zone. You log in without your title and without any filters. You can complain about unfairness. You can complain about your frustration, and you will get real support from peers who have survived the same thing. And you will get my support as well, because you are a human being, not just a job title. You deserve to feel supported when the corporate world treats you unfairly. And before we wrap up today, I want you to take one more deep breath in with me and exhale out. And if you were nodding your head during this episode, or if you have ever found yourself crying in your car because of a toxic environment, I want you to give you 3 quick next steps. So, first of all, take a deep breath in when you feel so frustrated, and slowly exhale it out. If you're in a meeting, you just take a deep breath in. You can slowly exhale it out. It will help you calm your nerves down. So, second of all, if you're not in the accounting profession and you may not reconcile spreadsheets, but you absolutely know what it feels like to carry a heavy professional burden and deal with toxic people in a toxic environment. And if this episode resonated with you, grab my favorite mental reset tools in the show notes below this episode. And if you have a friend who is an accountant, send them this message, because they do a lot of invisible work and they need to hear this message today. And thirdly, if you are an accounting profession, I know exactly what you are carrying. I know what month end close feels like, and I know how isolating it is to pretend like you have it all together. I want to tell you something. You don't have to carry the weight of this profession alone anymore. So the doors to behind the ledger are open. It is 100% anonymous, HR free support system that is built specifically for you. To learn more and join, click the link in the show notes below. And remember, you are not alone. Behind every job title is human. And I see that human.